This is Roger Struckoff with Syscon TV. We're at Cloud Expo in Silicon Valley in the year 2014, believe it or not. And I'm sitting here with John Woolf from Matrix, technical evangelist at the company, and he's going to talk about his company. He's going to talk about WebRTC, and we're going to talk about the integration or the combination of WebRTC and the Internet of Things. John, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Matrix and why you're here.
Sure. So Matrix is an ambitious open standard and implementation really set about to break down the fragmentation problems that exist in IP messaging and voice over IP communication. In particular, as it relates to WebRTC, we're positioning ourselves as the missing signaling layer. So in WebRTC, of course, there is, by intention, no signaling layer defined. And that's great, except when it comes to interoperability. So part of the Matrix mission is to grow an ecosystem that really allows true federation and really make these different applications, whether it is chat-type messaging or voice over IP or the communication of the myriad, for example, connected home or various other Internet of Things types devices, to really allow them to federate and have the intercommunication with each other.
Well, was the company founded just to solve this specific problem, or was this an opportunity that it saw along the way?
So the background of the people behind Matrix, and I need to stress that while we are a company, we are a not-for-profit company. Okay. It is an open source project, both in terms of standard and the reference implementations that we have. But the backgrounds of the people were in the unified, or are in the unified communications industry. So basically building VoIP systems or messaging systems, just data transfer systems for telecoms globally. So, for the last decade or more, we've had the acute pain of dealing with the limitations of these systems, and frankly, continuing to contribute to the problem of fragmentation. So we took our experience and created the specification, which we then branded as Matrix, in an effort to try and fix that. So we've released it to the world. We released 6 weeks ago, and our hope is to that people will adopt it for their messaging needs, and that we will eventually have an ecosystem that works very similar to the way that email works. If you think about it today, if we went back 30 some odd years to when email first came out, and things had to go where in order for me to send you an email, I had to use, let's say we both used Outlook, like I would have to use that, there would be a revolution, or people wouldn't be able to stand that. And yet for things like a chat application, we're just fine having 6 different chat applications on our phone and only being able to talk to people through that one channel, which isn't sensible.
Well, I remember the days of CompuServe, for example, and if you didn't have a CompuServe account, I couldn't talk to you. Now with you speak of fragmentation, but I'm also thinking of browsers, and I'm not the technical expert on WebRTC. What sort of problem are browsers causing for implementations of WebRTC on a grand scale, or is that not an issue now?
Well, so the WebRTC standard is really great at the things that it set out to do. So, some of the media negotiation stuff is good. The peer-to-peer connectivity stuff works really well. It falls down on the signaling side, and unfortunately, some of the things that have stood up to try and fill that gap just aren't very good. So, in particular, SIP is quite a complicated mess and a little bit of a nightmare in terms of the fact that one, you're talking about dropping another stack in your browser that basically does something that your browser is already capable of doing, which is just setting up a simple session. But then even in the situation where you're just going slightly technical for a minute, if you have multiple SIP stacks, there's no guarantee that they'll interoperate because of the massive fragmentation that exists around the SIP standard.
How can people contribute? Now, let's give the URL so they get that right. And then also, are you looking for contributions? How is the community being built? How is that whole thing progressing? Because I think that's really what's important to you more than, sort of a more commercial venture might be after.
Absolutely. So thank you for asking. We're very interested in collaborators. So the specification is hosted on matrix.org. There's a GitHub Matrix organization. It's GitHub Matrix, I believe, -org. I don't think they allow dots in the name, where you can download and view the reference implementation of both the server and then the various clients that we have implemented. For companies that are interested in this, we're also looking for sponsorship in the sense of joining the philosophical mission, and we're happy to talk to any and all of you.
John Woolf with Matrix. There's some very deep discussions that you folks can have with this individual and with his organization. Thank you much for joining us. Thank you for watching. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckoff.